Hi, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that video. I understand there was supposed to be music, and I'm not sure that it was playing. I couldn't hear it. So if you didn't, hopefully you were singing along. While I introduce today's session, I'm going to ask Sakshi. Oh, I think she already did. I was going to ask her to get her slides ready, but she already did it. Great. I'm Amy Orla from Forte, and welcome to our Business Essentials series. This is a space where we bring practical career shaping skills to the entire Forte community. And today's session focuses on a topic honestly, I think every marketer is navigating right now is how do you use AI with confidence, but also with strategic purpose, right? Because AI is it's reshaping marketing workflows at record speed, but most teams are still sorting out what's genuinely useful versus what's hype. Right. And that's why we're excited to have Sakshi Mehta, who's a group product marketing manager at Walmart and a Tepper MBA alum leading this workshop. Sakshi has built her career really at the intersection of the product strategy, customer insight, scalable marketing, and she stepped up to share her experience with the Forte community. This session is designed to give you grounded, real world ways to make AI a strong partner in your work. So whether it's to refine messaging or speeding up research or building content more efficiently, hopefully you're going to walk away with tools that you can put to use right away. So Sakshi, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Amy. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. I wanted to welcome you all and thank you for joining the session today. This session, as Amy mentioned, is designed as AI 101 for marketers, so no technical background is required. My goal is to make AI feel approachable, practical, and immediately useful for your day-to-day marketing work. So we'll focus less on buzzwords and more on real use cases and examples of on how you can start creating your own custom AI tools, such as with ChatGPT, to support your respective workflows. And by the end of this session, you should feel confident experimenting with AI as a partner in your marketing work. But before we begin this session, I was wanting to pulse the room. So where do you feel you are with AI today? And you can type beginner, intermediate, or advanced in the chat. Okay, I see some responses. So we have a good mix of people who think they're beginners or intermediate. So hopefully this session will give you a few more insights that you can take away for your day-to-day work and needs. So with that, let's go into how we'll spend our time together today. So I'll start with a quick introduction and ground us in what is product marketing, since many of the AI use cases we'll talk about map directly to marketing workflows. Then we'll look at how AI supercharges marketing work. We'll walk through an interactive exercise and close out with some practical best practices for building your own custom AI tools. For today's session, we'll primarily focus on ChatGPT, and I'll share things that have worked well for me so that you can experiment on those after the session. As mentioned in chat, we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to jot your questions down as we go. So a little bit about me. I'm Sakshi, and I have been doing product marketing for a wide range of technology products for the past 12 plus years. I love being able to use both the right side and the left side of my brain as part of my product marketing efforts. And at its core, I would say product marketing sits at the intersection of product, sales, and the customer. And I'm a marketer at heart and I love frameworks. I'm sure this group is familiar with the 3 C's of marketing, but I often describe my approach using my own version of 3 C's. So, my 3 C's are, the first one is curiosity to learn. And I think this is especially important in this fast moving AI landscape. The second is around coaching, which is helping my teams adopt these new AI tools and ways of working with it. And the third C is about connection. So sharing ideas with others and collaborating. So I would say this session is sort of in that connection bucket. And if you have any ideas that have worked well for you, please don't hesitate to share in chat. I want this to be an interactive session where we are all learning from each other. But outside of work and outside of being a product marketer, I do love exploring coffee shops in the Bay Area where I'm based. I love reading and writing something called book bites. These are summaries and my personal reflections of what resonated with me the most when I'm reading a book. So before we go into the details of the session, I love this quote because it really reframes how we should be thinking about AI. The future of AI in marketing isn't about tools replacing us. It's about agents evolving into teammates. So instead of us spending time on repetitive execution, AI can handle this with speed and efficiency. And that frees us marketers to focus on what we are best at, which is ideation, storytelling, and building that emotional connection with our target audience. So throughout this session, I want you to think about AI as not as doing your job for you, but as creating space for higher value thinking. So with that backdrop in mind, let's first start by looking at a high level what product marketing is. And I have simplified product marketing into 3 core responsibilities. And I do think that these 3 responsibilities span across most of the marketing roles that you may be in. The first one here is understanding your audience. So this includes researching market trends. What are the headwinds? What are the tailwinds? Analyzing what competitors are doing, and really deeply understanding what your customer needs are. The second one, perhaps my favorite, is telling a story. So defining your product's value and translating into messaging and positioning and content that resonates with your target audience. And the third would be driving growth. So once a feature is live, how do you monitor adoption? How do you continue to listen to customer feedback and iterate based on those real world signals? I think one important thing to note here is that while these steps may seem linear, they're not linear. It's sort of like a loop that feeds into each other. And I do think that AI can support every part of this loop. So this slide here shows how AI maps directly to the work marketers already do today. This is by no means a fully exhaustive list. These are just some examples to get you started. So again, going back to the 3 objectives, responsibilities that I touched on the previous slide, for understanding your audience, AI can help accelerate research. So things like competitive intelligence, feature comparisons, or win-loss analysis that might otherwise take us weeks to do. For telling a story, AI can help us with messaging frameworks, helping us write value propositions, and even adapting our narratives for different personas. Like, I do think personalization is the name of the game now, and it can do all of that at scale. And when you think about driving that growth once a feature is live and in market, AI can support you with content creation, like it can help you create case studies or blog posts. It can analyze customer sentiment and surface insights faster than manual methods. The key takeaway here is that AI can help you move from a blank page to a strong first draft much faster. And then you can apply your own creativity and judgment to refine the output further. But as I mentioned, this is not everything AI can help with. There are a lot more use cases. These are just some examples to get you started. So now let's put this into practice and let's see proof of the pudding a little bit here. So here's a hypothetical scenario. Your product, My Health, it's a smart ring that tracks stress and prompts quick micro meditations. It's targeted at busy VPs and senior managers who have limited time to relax or take a break. And your task is to write a one sentence value proposition. For the marketers in the room, they would already know this, but the value proposition is supposed to answer what the product is and why does it matter to a busy executive. I would ask you all to take about 30 seconds and share your responses in chat. So you can write a one-line value proposition, take 30 seconds and share it in chat. It feels easier said than done, right? It's harder to write a value proposition in like 30 seconds. Okay. Well, the good thing is that we've got you covered. So I want to pick an example that I wrote for a value proposition for this feature. And I want to show you how I've used a custom AI tool using ChatGPT to improve my response and my final output. So let me see if this video will play. Okay, so here is an example of a value proposition buddy that I built out, and it's a custom GPT that I created for value proposition specifically. So here we used a predefined prompt which says refine my draft. And then it will ask me for some details on what the product is, what is my first draft, and then what kind of output I need. And as you see, once I provide it with those details, it is providing me with 3 options in less than 15 seconds that speak to the value proposition that I've asked it to write. And then it also gives me its top recommended option, which by the way is my favorite as well. And you can see that it's helping us get there with the first draft and refining it pretty quickly. So you don't have to stop here. If you don't like the output that it comes up with, you can give it further instructions. You can tell it to make it shorter. You can ask it to not use the word seamlessly. So you can play around with this custom AI tool and adjust it and train it to speak your language. So I think the important thing that I want to highlight here is that this custom tool, as you saw, the video was slightly slower and choppy, and we'll talk more about this in the following sections. But it's because I'm using a ChatGPT version, which is a bit older, and hence it's a bit slower. But I'll share more details in the following slides on why I chose that model versus the latest version. Okay, so the stat that you see here, this isn't about perfection. This is about efficiency. So when marketers use some of these custom AI tools thoughtfully, they can dramatically reduce the time spent on repetitive work. For example, the stat that you see here is the time that I saved in writing some of these value propositions in my day-to-day work. So the way I like to frame it is this: marketers bring the soul, strategy, and judgment, and AI brings the speed and scale. And I would say the best results happen when those two work together. So now that you have some proof of the pudding, we want to get started with a few simple steps on how you can go ahead and create your own custom AI tool. And as I mentioned, for today's session, we will primarily focus on ChatGPT. Now, you can create these custom AI tools with Gemini as well, but today's focus is ChatGPT. So this is where AI adoption becomes very, very practical, right? So the most important advice that I would give is to start small. Be explicit about what you want the AI to help with, and don't be afraid to refine your prompts as you go. You can pick any one workflow. For example, we touched on messaging. You can pick market research or content creation and experiment there first. I don't think you need to overhaul everything at once. Think of using AI as onboarding a new teammate. So the clearer you are upfront, the better the output will be. So in order to create your own custom AI tool, and we'll be calling it custom GPT throughout the remainder of the session, you need to first start by logging in into ChatGPT. The interface that you see on the slide is a ChatGPT interface. You will need certain specific versions of ChatGPT, such as ChatGPT Plus, ChatGPT Teams, or Enterprise version to be able to create your own custom tools. And once you're logged in into ChatGPT, you go into the left-hand navigation bar and you click GPTs there. And in order to create a new custom GPT, you have to click on Create in the top right-hand corner. Now, just to provide lay of the land, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. I think you guys, this group is beginner intermediate, so I'm sure you already know this, but it's the type of large language model that ChatGPT uses, which is why it has GPT in its name. So once you click on Create, it will take you to a window that looks like this. So there are two ways that you can create your own custom GPT. The first one that I've highlighted on this slide is clicking into Create. So here you can provide ChatGPT with some information on what you want this GPT to do, who is it for, and what output you need. And it will go ahead and create a first version for you. And as you want to make edits, you can go into the Configure tab, which is right next to Create, and edit the instructions as needed. However, there is a second way that you create a custom GPT, which is to go into the Configure tab directly. This is a more hands-on way to create your custom tool, and I generally have found this to be more effective because I can really control what instructions I'm giving the custom GPT to work on. So here, the first step is to provide an image for your custom GPT. And then you want to select a name, like I called mine Value Proposition Buddy. And you want to add a brief description of what this GPT is supposed to do. Then you can add detailed instructions for your AI tool to implement. And I have some best practices that we'll cover in the following slides to speak to how to set up these instructions effectively. The second thing that you can do when creating your own custom GPT is to add conversation starters or prompts. These help users when they leverage your custom GPT to get started. So for example, in the value proposition buddy that I created, I had a few prompts, predefined conversation starters, such as draft a value proposition from scratch or refine this draft, right? Another example could be if you're building out a messaging GPT, you could consider adding something like draft a short sales pitch for my product. So it really depends on what your use case is. And I found these conversation starters to be very effective when you're sharing your GPT with others to use. The third thing that is really helpful with these custom AI tools is the knowledge section. So here you can upload any pre-existing documentation specific to your use case. So for the same example of a messaging GPT, I would add things like guidelines on copywriting or a brand tone and voice that I usually leverage. I could also provide it with details on the personas that I usually work with and how I have messaged to them in the past. And as you're creating this custom GPT, you'll keep seeing the preview of what it would look like in the right-hand side window here. One additional point that I want to share. So ChatGPT has many versions of the large language models that it uses, right? It keeps releasing new versions with new updates. I believe the latest one is GPT 5.4. However, I've noticed that each model is strong in a few specific things. Like there will be a GPT that is better for research, or there will be a GPT that is better for deeper thinking. So, based on your use case and what you're trying to do, you can suggest a recommended model for your custom AI tool to the people who use your GPT. So, you see that right under the knowledge section on this slide. So, as an example, as I promised before, for the value proposition buddy, I used GPT 4.5. Now, this is definitely an older version and it is slower as well. But based on a lot of trial and error, I found it to be better at writing related tasks. The output that it creates is a bit more human-like. So I always prefer using 4.5 for any writing that I need to do. Now, I would suggest that when you are building your custom AI tools, you can play around with the different models and see which one gives you the desired output. And based on that, you can select the recommended model for your specific custom GPT. And once you're happy with all the changes, you can go ahead and save your GPT and then start sharing the link with your peers to test it out. So I think the key thing to keep in mind here is that you continue to iterate and improve. I've noticed that the best custom GPTs evolve over time. As your needs change, your knowledge base grows, and your expectations from the GPT sharpen. So, AI adoption, I would say, is a muscle and it gets stronger with use. So, something for us to keep in mind, if you don't get it right the first time, I would suggest to keep going because you will see improvements in how your tool is responding to your specific queries and concerns. Now, as promised, I have 5 actionable best practices that I have personally tested. I have shared with my teams who've created these custom AI tools and seen a lot of value. And a lot of this is coming from trial and error, learning by doing, and also a lot of learning courses that I have been taking since I started creating some of these custom AI tools. So, if you are someone who is just getting started with creating these custom GPTs, I would highly encourage you to leverage some of these best practices. The first one here is the 5-part recipe. And as I mentioned before, this is really important to keep in mind when you're writing the instructions of your custom GPT. So let's go through this one by one. So the first thing that you need to provide to your custom tool is the persona. So who is the AI acting as? For example, if I am asking it to build out a value proposition buddy, I told the custom GPT that they are acting as a product marketing manager, right? You need to then provide it with some context. What is the situation? What is the background? What is the role? What are some of the responsibilities, etc.? Once you've provided that context, you want to give it a task. Now, this is where it gets more real because you have to be very clear about what you want this to do. So in my case, I was very specific to explain to the GPT that their only job is to work on value propositions, and I provided it with the framework of how I usually like to write my value propositions. The next one is providing it with an output format. So you can be very, very specific based on what kind of output you want for your specific needs. And it will keep that in mind when it's providing you with the responses based on the questions that are asked to the custom GPT. And the last one is constraints, and I think this is really important. Constraints are basically things that you can ask the GPT to keep in mind as it's answering or responding to user queries. For example, I can say that I do not want to use the word revolutionary in any of the value propositions that you write for me. Now, constraints can feel limiting sometimes, but I have found that they make the outputs more usable and more consistent. So something again for you to test, play around with and see what works best for your specific custom GPT needs. So 2 very powerful techniques here. The first is that you need to ask the AI to think step by step, and this is called a chain of thought. And it helps improve the reasoning and reduces rushed answers. It also lets you see how the GPT is thinking when it's trying to respond to a question you asked. The second thing is giving it a library. So you can share your own documents and briefs and slide decks and examples. So this allows the custom GPT to ensure that it's using your facts and your voice and not just generic internet knowledge. This point number three is the biggest value add of using your own custom AI tool because this will go beyond what it can find on the internet. It will actually cater to your specific requirements and tailor the output based on how you would do things, right? So, for example, for the value proposition buddy, I uploaded our brand tone and voice. I uploaded some copywriting guidelines, but I also provided it with some of the work that I did on personas. So, the target audience that I work with, who are they, what their needs are, and how we've messaged to them in the past. So that gives it a bit more knowledge base to work with beyond just what it can find on the internet. And this is how we move from a generic AI to a true marketing assistant. Now, here is another best practice that I've found to be very helpful, very, very helpful. So examples are incredibly powerful, right? So again, this concept is called a zero shot versus few shot learning. So zero shot means that you provide the GPT with no examples and let it run on its own. But a few shot learning approach allows you not just to describe what you want, but actually show the AI 2 to 3 examples of what kind of input will be provided to it, what kind of questions it should ask, and then what is the output that you're looking for, right? So this helps lock in the tone, the structure, and the expectations. One example that I can give you is that I built out a competitive intelligence GPT for myself. And I wanted it to do feature comparisons like side by side. So I gave it examples of the kind of things that it should consider when it's trying to compare the features, such as their scope, their impact, how are they, whether they are easy to use or not. And I told the GPT, I gave it an example that I want the output to be in a table format. So that way it knows that when it gets a question on side-by-side comparison or feature comparisons, it will ensure that it provides the responses the way I've suggested that it should. So those examples really help make your output a bit more refined and a bit more aligned to what you're looking for. And the last one is the obvious one. Don't go easy on your custom GPTs. Don't forget to test it with really hard questions. In fact, I go to ChatGPT and ask it to give me test use cases for a custom tool that I've created. So that allows me to go, test this deeply. And if your GPT holds under pressure, it's ready for real use. And then I share it with my team as well so that they can continue to test it and provide any thoughts and feedback. So that way we continue to iterate and keep making the GPT better. As I mentioned, AI adoption is a muscle, it gets stronger with use. So those were the 5 best practices that I would recommend that you keep in mind and try out when you're creating your own custom AI tools. This is the last slide that I have for us today, but your AI learning journey shouldn't stop here. So if you want to keep building your skills, there are some LinkedIn learning courses, especially if you're a beginner. You can pick any of these courses that I have on the slide and try to apply it immediately to something that you're working on. So because you learn the most by doing, and that's how I have been able to use these custom AI tools in my day-to-day workflows. You already have the marketing instincts, and I think AI is just helping us scale them faster. So that would be my closing line. And thank you so much for taking the time to hear me out. And I'll pass it back to Amy and we can open it up for any questions.
Yeah, yeah. I first of all, amazing. It's actually that was amazing. Like I think I've been to a lot of sessions about AI, and I feel like a lot of them are the hype of AI, but that really focused on the how. And even when it comes to not marketing, like I didn't know about the library. So I'm like taking fast and furious notes. I just wanted to remind you all that you could put your questions in the Q&A. Some folks are private messaging me some questions. Some are private messaging Alexia, and actually I'm not sure if some are private messaging you some messages, but feel free to put them in the chat too. But The first one we got, and I'm going to have to read from my screen, is we hear a lot about privacy concerns when uploading data into AI tools, right? What best practices should marketers follow to protect sensitive information, but still get value out of AI systems?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's something that's been top of mind for me and all the people and the teams that we work with. So, one thing I want to clarify is that for most part, when you're creating these custom AI tools and providing it with the knowledge, it's within the walls of your own enterprise. So, the way the ChatGPT enterprise licenses are set up, that information does not leave your organization's ecosystem. So it's very safe to upload any of these knowledge sources because they stay within the security walls of your organization. Now, obviously, if you're using a personal ChatGPT version like a ChatGPT Plus, you've paid for it and you've created these custom AI tools, then yes, I would encourage that you exercise caution in what kind of data you're uploading to the custom AI tools, because unless you're using a temporary chat, which is a feature in ChatGPT, most of the information will be used to train the GPT models and make them better. So finding that right balance for yourself is always helpful. When I'm asking some really funny or stupid questions, I go to temporary chat because I don't want that to be a memory that ChatGPT remembers.
I I love that. I've been known to type in some snide comments too. I probably should be using that for that. You called it temporary.
Yeah,
It's
there's a temporary chat option.
okay. I'm definitely going to have to start using that. Um, you shared a lot of. I'm trying to this is written kind of oddly, but hold on. You shared some really actionable best practices for getting better results from AI, right? You said prompting it to work step by step, giving it a knowledge library, providing examples, testing it with hard questions. For a true beginner, which of these habits make the biggest difference and why?
Yes. So I think it's very hard for me to choose. It's like asking a parent to choose which is their most favorite kid. But I would say that the first one that I shared around the 5-part recipe is a must-have. The persona, the context, the output, the task, and the constraints are like really important because that's how you structured your instructions for the GPT to work effectively. So I wrote my first version, which was not in this structure, and then I created another one where I used this, and I have tested it, and I found it to be better in terms of the output it provides. I think the second one, as I mentioned before, is the library. So the third best practice, like it is the biggest value add of creating your own custom AI tool when you
Yeah.
upload your knowledge sources. The output changes dramatically because it can emulate my tone, it can emulate my style of writing if I share examples with it. So those two I would pick if I was really like, if you had a gun to my head and you said you have to pick top two, that's what I
Yeah.
would pick. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to ask you to choose your favorite child there, but actually someone probably because I mentioned how useful the library would be, someone actually did send me a message and said for the knowledge section, is there a setting so that AI only uses data you upload and is not pulling from the internet at all?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I didn't cover it in today's session, but when you're creating, when you go into the configure tab and scroll further down, there are a lot more, I think it's called capabilities that you can do with the custom AI tool. So there is an option that says web search. I have never checked it off. I always keep it on because of the use cases that I have worked on. But that web search is what it does when it searches the internet. So if you wanted to only use your custom content, then you can try using the ChatGPT without the web search. I have to say though, the biggest value add has been for it to be able to pull the best practices from across the internet and overlay your knowledge sources. So I have seen best results with that, but if you absolutely want to test it, you can remove the web research part and uncheck that box and kind of try it that way.
okay. I love this next question because honestly, I love it. When you're creating a custom GPT, what are some of the bigger challenges you have run into personally?
Yeah, so I think my biggest challenge has been to, which I also mentioned, is the starting small. So I can give an example. When I created a competitive intelligence GPT, I was all over the place in terms of what I wanted to do. So I wanted real-time updates. I wanted side-by-side comparisons. I wanted to create battle cards and then translate those battle cards into case studies. And then I want to do side-by-side comparisons and feature overviews and a lot of that stuff. And I noticed that giving it like 10 use cases to work with and 10 prompts not only made my GPT very crowded, it was also not as specific to what it can do, right? You want to use these custom AI tools as your specialized, sort of your SMEs, right? And not like a generic marketing
Yeah.
assistant. And I noticed that some of my peers who actually created one custom AI tool for, say, battle cards only, they saw a lot of value from it. So I pivoted my approach and made it more structured. That's why I included and said start small because we all want to like
Yeah.
automate every single part of what we do today. But when I took a step back and I said, okay, I'll ask it to only solve for two use cases, I think it was much more effective for me. So I have mostly now created custom GPTs which focus on like one or two things, so that I can train it on those specific callouts.
I think that works in prompts too, right? Because
Yes.
we use Copilot at Forte, and
Yes.
I used it to do some research. And it actually advised me at one point. It said, don't you would find my answers to be more useful or something like that if you would put in your research questions one at a time instead
Mhm.
of all at
Yeah.
once. So I thought that
Yeah.
was really interesting that it was trying to train me how to
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really funny and also very, very true.
yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Because we have so much so many people on this session that are either early career, maybe looking for a new job, maybe starting an MBA program and going to be interviewing. Um, I definitely want to end with this last question. Unless someone else has any more, and feel free to type them in the Q&A. But curiosity is one of your three C's. For early career marketers, what are some concrete ways to show curiosity to managers or future employers in a way that gets noticed? In other words, how do you talk about what you've done, not just show what you've done?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that I have tried to do three things. So the first is that I started when I and this was 2 years ago when GenAI started becoming a thing. It was democratized with ChatGPT, etc. So the first thing that I started doing is went to a lot of these conferences. And I'll be honest, when I went to one GenAI conference in San Francisco hosted by Microsoft, I was a bit lost and a bit overwhelmed because there was so much content there. You don't know what sessions to attend. Some of that is too technical. You don't feel like you belong, etc. But I kind of stayed put, and I went through the 2 days of that conference, and then I brought back insights for my team, and I did sort of a recap and training for them. And as I was doing that, I realized that I picked on a lot of different things which I didn't realize I would. So sometimes when you find yourself in these difficult situations where you feel like this is not where I belong or I don't totally follow, just stick through it and you will find that you're able to grasp those concepts. By the end of the 2 days, I felt like I learned not everything, but at least 20%. And that 20% was very new for other people on my team that I was sharing with. So try to attend these events and conferences. There are a lot happening. You don't know which one to choose, just pick any and go for it. You'll learn as you go. I think the second thing that I've done quite a bit is, which I also shared, is the LinkedIn Learning courses. Like LinkedIn
Yeah.
Learning they do offer a lot of free courses. I've started with mostly, I searched for Big Nerd. I searched for Big Nerd 2 years ago and said, okay, I want to start here. And they were very helpful. So I started collating my own notes when I read through those. And again, I bring those back to my team. I just share with people and say, I tried this. Do you want to try this as well? So similarly, when you're in interview situations, you can always reference some of these learnings and share with your respective people that you're speaking with. And the third is, like Amy, you said, like proof of the pudding, right? So the more you do hands-on playing around with different things that you know you can do with these AI tools. And by the way, I talked a lot about using these tools for marketing. I know a lot of my mom friends who are actually using these tools to create calendars for their kids and kind of organizing them in a nice way. Or I used an AI tool to create a trivia game for my team. So you can do a lot more, which is not just work with these tools. So even if you feel like you are an MBA student and you're not in a corporation, there could be so many things. You can organize your work, your day using these tools. And that really shows to an interviewer beyond the book-based learning that you're very hands-on and you've tried it. And that third one is really important as well.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And that's what I was trying to say before is that I felt like even not doing marketing per se, but I really felt like a lot of what you shared I could apply in other areas. So love that last point, especially. What a great way to show whether it's your manager or a corporate recruiter that you've really adopted this and talking about creating custom, chat GPTs. I don't see any more questions in the queues. Alexia, do you get any more private message to you?
Hey everyone. So I actually don't have any other questions in my queue either, which is great that we answered everyone's questions
Yeah.
within the time frame. So love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Saksha, I just want to say thank you so, so, so much. This was amazing. I definitely am going to watch the replay because I was trying to take notes, but I know I missed a lot. But just the fact that you're willing to come and share your knowledge with the Forte community means the world to us. And I just can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy and Alexia and Anna, for the opportunity. Forte was very kind to me almost a lifetime ago, it feels now, when I went for my MBA. So I'm glad to be able to bring some of that back to the team and happy to partner with you going forward as well. And thank you to everyone who attended and gave their time. I think this session was between you and lunch. So really appreciate you joining us for those on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to echo again, thanks for everyone for attending. There will be a recording of this, so you will have access to it for those that are registered for the event or the session. And then just again, a general reminder, we have a ton of things happening at Forte. So check out our events calendar on our website for more information. At the beginning of today's session, we also had some upcoming sneak peeks. So again, there's constantly things happening here at Forte. We really want to make sure that we're providing the best professional development content for our audience. So we hope to see you at a future event. And thanks again, everyone.